Welcome back, guys. We're back with a supplement series. This is our second one. So if you missed our first one, check back on the podcast. We went over creatine and vitamin D. This one, we're just going to stay with one compound, caffeine.
The beautiful caffeine.
Caffeine and pre-workouts and
the stuff that gets most people through life.
maniac mode. So we're going to go over the pros and cons of caffeine. Is it good for you? Yes. Is it bad for you? Yes. When to take it, how to take it, what is it, what are the different products out there using different variations of it. So we're going to go for a run through of it today.
Whilst drinking coffee.
While Ben set up his fucking fancy coffee setup, which takes about half an hour to get a cup to fucking work. Gone are the old...
It's like a biology class, isn't it?
Yeah, but it does taste better.
Heat the Bunsen. You got to,
As you
warm
can see,
everything.
all the coffee shops that have just... Well, coffee's always been a big thing, but now it's a really big thing. It's a big trade, and there's lots of money to be made in it. But we're going to cover it mainly for athletic performance.
Athletic performance, yeah, a bit of life. Does it have a huge impact? Does it help? Yeah, I think to start off with a definition of caffeine, as we like to start off with, it is an alkaloid component which is found especially in tea and coffee plants, and is a stimulant of the central nervous system, which I think is the key part of it. It's a central nervous system stimulant. As we know, you've got like your sympathetic, parasympathetic, your kind of fight and flight, and your rest and digest. So all this does is, stimulates the central nervous system, pushes you more into a kind of a fight or flight stage through the components or the compounds within the cocoa leaves. And
so the fight or flight is where you're gonna stand there and have a good fight, or it will make you run like a motherfucker for your flight. So it's always the case if they say if the big bear coming down the hill, what do? Do you stand there and fight it, or do you run away? That's fight or flight basically works with the nervous system.
I'd run.
I'd probably have a cuddle with it, to be fair.
Hey, they look beautiful.
Bit of Khabib and wrestle it.
Yeah. Don't know Khabib.
Depending on what drink I've had. If I've taken this, I'm wrestling that bear. If I've taken this, then I'll probably run.
Yeah.
So,
but
we're going to cover all those.
To you.
For people that aren't watching the YouTube, we've got some products here. We're just going to briefly run through what I use. I love caffeine, I really do, but I don't abuse it. I have done that, I have abused it, which you'll come into. That's when you know you can use caffeine to benefit your workouts, and then you can use caffeine to absolutely destroy your workouts and
affect your
life, and mainly affect your circadian rhythm. That's what we're going to talk about, how the imbalance between that is. So while he's concentrating so much on his spectacular coffee machine, getting the right temperature. What is that? The right rate?
You get the right weight. You get the temperature. It's about variables when it comes to a cup of coffee, which we can do a whole one on if you want. I can talk for hours on coffee, but there's an art to it. Unfortunately, Nespresso and Starbucks isn't really proper coffee. But anyway. That's my own opinion, so we'll get onto that in a bit. So I think the main things about, first, like common misconceptions with caffeine. A lot of people, as we know from like scientists and people who've spent their life doing studies, caffeine affects people differently, right?
Yeah. So everyone is going to have exactly like that, and it's just like alcohol as well. We know some people can have a good tolerance to alcohol and can drink like a fish, and then we see that some people can have like one glass and they are like all over the place and turn into a different person. Caffeine is exactly the same. It depends on your genetic makeup, how well you can handle it or not, for sure. Some people may build up that tolerance to it, which you will do if you do abuse caffeine. Now, which you will come to. The more you drink, the more you build up the tolerance to it, the less effect it does start to have on you. So that's why it's really important understanding when to have it, how to have it, and how to use it for its good potential and not abuse it. So then you get all the cons out of it. So yeah, everyone is different. some people may say, I have a cup of coffee and I'm bouncing off the walls. Then yeah, we recommend that you don't drink caffeine. It's not for you. Some people may have a cup and feel like, I don't feel that, and they have 10 cups a day. Is that still a good thing for them to do? No, they've got a good tolerance level to it, but it doesn't mean now they just drink more of it, because obviously it's once we come into talking about the adrenal gland and cortisol levels, that can really play to an unhealthy sort of state with your fitness.
Yeah, there's a big cultural thing as well with caffeine, especially coffee. Very kind of Scandinavian countries are known for drinking coffee late into the night, like 10 o'clock at night, and then be able to sleep perfectly in the night. Yeah. And people are like, well, I could do that, but then they try it and they're up all night. So yeah, there's definitely, as you said, like a tolerance thing. People have also gone to like university. You find like if they've had to study late and smashing loads of energy drinks to get through uni, out in the real world, you'll be a little bit more tolerant to caffeine. You'll find that you've built up a resilience over the years of sleepless nights, the amount of caffeine you've consumed throughout that. So yeah, there's definitely looking at the past, looking at your potential cultural differences, how you grew up, if it was a big part, if it wasn't a big part, and that goes back to like stimulants within life. So I just need to let it go through.
So drinking it is, let's get down to training times. So if you train late at night, it's probably not advisable to have caffeine. So say if you are in the gym at like 7, 8, I know this is difficult now for some people, got the 9 to 5, so they finish their job, they're pretty wiped out anyway, especially if they've been drinking coffee at work. As soon as you wake up, your cortisol levels are there.
Rising. Cortisol works
naturally.
In a counteractive hormone to melatonin, which is your sleep hormone. So when you're sleeping, your cortisol is really low. Then when you wake up, ideally you want high peaks of cortisol. And so yeah, as you're coming out of sleep with cortisol starting
and then we find
rise.
The person who wakes up and has that cup of coffee first thing in the morning, which, if you look at the studies which I've looked at, is not the best time to have it, because your natural cortisol levels are rising,
anyway.
So you won't reap the real benefit of that caffeine anyway. And then what you start to do, you start to suppress the rest of the day with your cortisol levels. So you're better off having some breakfast probably first, filling up your stomach, lining your stomach, and then having that coffee later on in the morning or towards midday. And then obviously we were talking about the athlete who trains in the evening. Then we can look at having that pre-workout or your Nocco or your caffeine later on because you're feeling tired. Do you need it? Yes, it will help you benefit your workout. You're going to get that more mental alertness. That's what it does. It will help you for your workout. But will it help you get to sleep later where your recovery protocols start? Probably not. It more than likely will, and this is all down to the tolerance level of the athlete. Like, I know some people can have coffee, like you say, at night and go straight to bed. Hey, that works for them, so they haven't got a problem. So you have to understand yourself first. So if you find, I have that coffee and then I have to sit at home and sit up and watch TV for a few hours to sort of like wind down, that's not benefiting your recovery now. That's not going to let you get into a better sleep. It's probably messing around with your circadian rhythm too much. So I'd say you probably want to find more of a natural stimulant rather than caffeine. There are stuff out there now, drinks or nootropics.
Mental stimulants, but
nootropic is another series on its own, but nootropics is just like another. It's just basically there's many different ones of compounds for that same mental alertness, but they're no stim. So with a nootropic, you can go to sleep on it,
but you'll be mentally focused.
But you'll be mentally. It will just give you that sharpness and that mental alertness, which is in this product, which I'll talk about once we get to the products. But that's probably a better thing to look at. So look at nootropics, natural, and there are artificial nootropics, but they're finding the right one for you, which will give you that mental alertness. And again, if you're a big coffee drinker in the day, maybe supplementing that out with a nootropic in the day would be better for you anyway. Then you've got the athletes in the morning. Obviously, caffeine's going to work better, I think, after you've had a bit of digestion of your breakfast. Then you can look at having your pre-workout then. So again, it's all dependent without me going on it too much. All dependent on the person.
Well,
it really is.
I think the studies that Matthew Walker has done, who's I think we touched on him in the sleep podcast, is he basically, caffeine has a half-life of 8 hours, so it's got an overall life of 16 hours. And we spoke about this and how the caffeine and stimulants, they block the receptors for the sleep pressure that starts to build up over the day. So you do get big lulls, big hits of sleep pressure as the caffeine kind of wears off. So that's why you get like a coffee crash in the late afternoon.
And then people whack it in again.
And then if you've had it past, as you said, like midday, 2 o'clock, and you're trying to go to bed at 10, it's just getting to the point of its half-life. Okay, we're not saying you need to have coffee at 6 o'clock in the morning, that's your last coffee of the day. No, because people are going to deal with it differently. But then on the same point, it becomes almost a placebo, in a sense of, if it's the first thing you do when you wake up, it's more habitual than actually having a benefit to you.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, you build up the tolerance through that, having day in, day out, coffee, and it's not going to have the impact. All it is just a kind of a mental, psychological impact. A lot of science is put down, a large proportion of it in studies is put down to the placebo effect of when they're testing drugs. So, and that's basically a large portion of the morning time. If you do it over and over again, it's more the habit of just having it, the placebo of how it makes you feel rather than the actual effect.
Yeah, so another healthy way of doing that is, if you find you do start to feel like you're adding too much, then you have to do the cold turkey.
Yeah.
Reset your adrenal glands, and you can get that all back to normal by going, right, let me go caffeine free, 2 weeks, a month. I've done that when I've definitely overdone. When I used to work the shift work, like doing the door work and stuff like that, oh my God, my caffeine intake became ridiculous.
Yes.
And then you'd look at, cheers, tasting his coffee now, that's it.
It's probably hot.
Lovely. That's it. Now I'm going to really start to talk faster.
Yeah.
I'm going to
A rabbit on for the next fucking half an hour.
We're
going to go through all of these stimulants, and by the end of it will be about 1,000 milligrams.
But as I was saying, so when I was doing like working the doors and stuff, so I'd be working my early morning in the shift in the gym on a Friday. Let's talk a typical weekend for me. I would be having 50 cans of Nocco.
Yeah. And then some.
So if people know me, I love Nocco. I love Nocco for the caffeine, not for the BCAA, but I love for the caffeine. I'd have that. I'd have a can in the morning. Then I would train, and then I would be back at home. I would eat my meals, and then I'd be back to work at the night. So I'd set off get there for like 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, I'd get there. We'd always have a massive Starbucks to start the shift.
Of course.
Mega cup. We would drink that, and then.
So it's a venti, isn't it?
Yeah. Fucking can't call it large, can we? and then from there, throughout the night, obviously once your levels start dropping down naturally, my body's saying it wants to go to sleep. I'm telling my body, no, we can't go home till 4 o'clock. So then the old cans of Red Bull would start to slide out, and then I'd be sometimes back up in the morning. So I'd be 2 hours sleep. I'd be back up in the morning. Obviously, the first thing I'd be reaching for is caffeine, and then I would till that into Saturday evening, back to work, on the door again, big large coffee, Red Bull. So you can look at the unhealthiness of that. What was I doing? I was obliterating my adrenal glands. My cortisol levels were just fucking
through the roof constantly.
Through the roof. I wasn't getting enough sleep. And then later on down the line, when we go back to the podcast of sleep, visualization and stuff like that, obviously I started getting lots of aches and pains. I was feeling tired, mentally wrecked. It all adds up. So it really is trying to find the perfect balance with your caffeine. Is it good? Yes, it is. Will it give you a mental alertness? Will it give you extra athletic performance? I've looked at studies to say that it definitely will. But then once we start tipping over the iceberg with it and start doing too much of it, then it does become an unhealthy product. Like with anything, you do too much of it, it becomes unhealthy.
Yeah, some of the stuff, like even though caffeine and, as we spoke about with creatine and caffeine, are two pretty much well-researched supplements, they're naturally forming in stuff like coffee beans, they're naturally forming within the body in red meat in terms of creatine. They're generally safe, but then, yeah, there is side effects. Side effects like anxiety, restlessness. Like sometimes you can have change of heartbeat.
Yeah, change of heartbeat.
But you've probably drunk enough coffee to be like, you get like the shakes. You get a little anxious. You're like, yeah, that's probably a little bit too much caffeine for the day. And then
one thing we know it can build up the most of is anxiety.
There you go.
So again, if you look at anxiety, we know now with mental health awareness a lot at the moment, a lot of it is for some people now anxiety. Through the situation we've gone in over the last year, you know, stress levels raises anxiety. So
and this is ultimately cortisol
is a stressor. So if you're like stressed out and you're loading in caffeine, you can't expect to have a good outcome out of it. Do you know what I mean? Like if you've got that heavy day work and you're reaching for those cups of coffee, or what I see, which is horrendous, is people downing cans of Monster through the day. I'm like, what are you doing? They are, not only is that well over your recommended dose of caffeine, but when people start doing like 2-3 cans of that a day,
like 50 grams
like
of sugar.
they're drinking cups of coffee, you've got the sugar, you've got the other stuff in there. It's not healthy. It's not good. Like, okay, 1 can of Monster you could use for your training, just like some of these here. Yeah, it's going to reap an effect. If it makes you more alertness and gives you more performance in your session, then that's good. But if you're reaching them just to get by in the day, then that's a telltale sign straight away that your natural cortisol levels and your adrenal glands are burnt out.
And you need to, change lifestyle things to allow you to, because ultimately you should, if you're hitting everything well enough, you're sleeping well and you're eating well, you're training to a good level of like sustainability and you're managing stress, your energy level should be pretty consistent throughout the day. So you shouldn't be having to, like we're sitting here drinking coffee. I love coffee personally.
That's why we're doing this. And if you look at the order of our podcasts, if you go for each one, it will start to make sense. We're not just randomly making podcasts. We've done it in an order that leads you into a way of understanding that these are, things that you can
use to improve performance, improve a little bit of life, help you.
It's a luxury thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like you can enjoy a luxury thing. Like you can, I love my pre-workout. I love cups of coffee, but I use it now to a good tolerance level that I don't abuse it. And that's what we're trying to get at here. It's like, so put everything into place first. Energy levels comes from nutrition, comes from good sleep. Then once you have your natural energy levels, you'll probably then look less to reach for that cup of coffee.
You'll feel the benefit as well, massively, especially in performance. It's a go-to for a large amount of athletes is a coffee.
Yeah, it's a social setting.
As well,
It's a social setting. Let's get it right. Everyone loves a cup of coffee. Everyone loves maybe a cup of coffee between training each other, or even a cup of coffee after. It's a nice social setting as well. So it's getting it right and getting that balance right.
Knowing like when to stop during the day, almost so it sort of gets to a point where it doesn't inhibit your sleep.
Yeah. So I'd say what midday we're looking at 1 o'clock.
I'd say latest two. If you're looking at a half life of 8 hours and you're getting to bed at 10, I know that's probably quite unrealistic for a lot of people through different circumstances. But yeah, if you're wanting to get to bed around between 10 and 11, 2 o'clock's probably like latest.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're and if this goes back to your circadian rhythm and your dips. If you are hitting everything correctly, you will normally have a little bit of a dip post-lunch, and that's where people are quite eager to reach for something because they're like, I got another 3-4 hours to get through work, I'm having a bit of a dip. Well, you've just eaten. You're generally, if your circadian rhythm is good evening and night, you will have a little lull in the days. Mm-hmm. Hence the reason some cultures have naps. You go to France, you go to Spain, everything's closed.
Siesta!
Yeah, a little 2 hour block or an hour block in the middle of the day. People go and have a nap.
I used to have lovely siestas before I had kids.
I still do. I don't have kids, so No, I don't have siestas.
So I used to fit when I'd finish. Oh man, siestas were unreal when I was doing working all those jobs.
I can imagine. Little siesta, just going to the toilet.
1
and have a
o'clock,
little
2 o'clock,
siesta.
and I still get that feeling. So sometimes once I finish my shift here at 1 o'clock and I go home, I sit down after I've had something to eat. I sit and I'm like, wow, that's it. I need to nap, but then I've got this tugging on me, daddy. That's done with now. So.
But yeah, so caffeine in that sense, it's easily reachable because you know what it's going to bring, but being more mindful of actually the implications, but also the benefits it does have. I know you did some research in terms of how it can improve endurance, it can improve muscle strength within athletes, right?
And what we're giving you here is as well, when we do these supplement series, we're talking to you on our half and our experiences, but research it. Okay, if you get a lot from this and you trust us and you know me, then you'd probably go, okay, I'm going to trust Tris and Ben because I know them. But if you don't know us, always research everything.
Yeah, I think
research it yourself. There's loads of studies on caffeine now. If you look at for athletic performance, you'll find there's been many tests, and it does raise athletic performance. It does help running. It's helped rugby. It's helped a lot of things, and that's why you see now all these products making things for Pacific
fancy
sports.
supplements.
Yeah, you know, to obviously to make money out of it. That's the main goal. But they do have an effect on work, and they do really work well as long as your protocols and your basic life guidelines are all in check. Then it really works well. So we've got cortisol levels.
Yeah, cortisol levels. I think we've touched on that. Just
adrenal glands. So we know that if you do too much, you're going to burn them out. So it's not typically a good thing to do. So keep it steady, and then we can look at. I suppose may as well move on to the products. We spoke about the caffeine. So. Typical product you might see, especially in the CrossFit world, is the Nocco, the BCAA, no carbs company. So obviously it's a sugar-free, refined green tea extract and vitamins with sweetener. So you've got,
as we said, your natural sources of caffeine are tea and coffee.
Tea and coffee. So in here, high caffeine content, 55 milligram per 100 mil. So you're looking around 150 in there.
That's 180.
Is it 180? Sorry, 180.
180, yeah.
Which is what's a normal
so
cup of coffee?
You're like a double shot of espresso is 160, so it's a little bit more.
So for someone,
than a double shot of coffee.
Someone who's got low tolerance, they're going to get a big kick out of that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Someone like me, I do get a kick, but it's very
mild.
Yeah, and I can be a bit of a junkie sometimes. Sometimes I can feel like I can feel that kick, and I'm like, right, I want more.
Yeah.
It's again not a good thing to do all the time, but then you can look at something bigger.
But that goes back to with something like that. It's like the placebo effect of just like coming in, and it for a lot of people and for us for a long period of time, it definitely was a habit. Just come in, grab a Nocco, grab a bar, have a drink, start your workout.
It's a clever.
It's convenient.
It's a clever product as well. Like it's not only just saying to you, "Well, here's your cup of coffee," but it's also going, "Oh, here's your amino acids, your BCAAs," which
a lot of people are, huh?
Which we know that we're probably going to do a series on the difference between BCAAs and EAAs, essential amino acids, branch chain amino acids.
What's their benefit? Why they're in everything?
I think Nocco need to change this now and go to EAA. Essential amino acids are the amino acids that are essential. Branch chains aren't too essential and have next to nothing. Basically,
right. There's a lot to do with them. You have to mix them with.
So
I can't remember the supplement. I can't remember what's off my head.
It's just a nice, drinkable caffeine fancy product. That's what that is. You get a good little dose. You get a good kick. Get C4. I don't really talk too much about C4.
But now you're like kind of in the world of that's like the Nocco's more.
So now we're stepping the game. We're stepping the game up.
That's more of this is more of a pre-workout. Whereas I think the Nocco they kind of marketed it very cleverly that it's not a pre-workout because everyone has these misconceptions that you're going to get itchy, you're going to be like tetchy.
So basically, you could have your Nocco any time of the day. Just for
most people do.
Yes. Yeah, so just for that little kick, and it's not going to affect you too much in that way. Where we now start walking into the pre-workout world, especially when we start looking at high stim pre-workout. So you've got your C4. Now you're looking at a much bigger dose, aren't you? So I think in here
200 milligrams.
Yeah, we're looking around 200 milligrams, and then we got I think a much better one. The Reigns now.
different products, different ingredients.
So
isn't
I'll talk more about this because I'd always go for this over the C4. I just think the C4 came at a time where there wasn't a lot of competition around.
C4's been out for so many years now.
But now you're looking at a lot better products. So if we look at the Can of Rain, you know, you've got your 200 milligrams of natural caffeine. It's got increased concentration. One thing I will vouch for a Can of Rain over the C4s and stuff is that you don't feel that drop. It's a much cleaner stim.
It's a little less punchy as well.
A little less punchy. It's more. There's just definitely a more increased in concentration. You've got your B vitamins in there: B3, B6, B12. No artificials, colourings. The flavours are pretty good. I really like that. I probably have maybe 1 can a week, maybe 2. And again, I really limit for what I'm doing. So if you're looking at a high intensity workout, high volume, obviously something like the Rain is going to be good. It's going to give you that. But then when we look at more products like this, Naughty Boy Menace, I really like this pre-workout. I've tried many pre-workouts. As people know me, I've done many pre-workouts over many years. There's very, very high. I think what was... there's ingredients now that have been banned.
Yeah. Lots of them.
So I think one that everyone will know of is one called Jack 3D, which was like... When that pre-workout come out, it was the daddy of pre-workouts. It was fantastic. It's quite high stim, but I think one of the products in there now, which has been banned, was DHMAA, something like that. And basically, it was when that lady done the London Marathon, and she took a serving of Jack 3D, I think, with the last 2 miles to go. So, and she... Obviously, I think her heart gave out. So that brought a big alertness to the pre-workout world and put a lot of restrictions in England. I know in some countries it's still illegal.
You can get kind of like you can get anything in America within reason.
But coming back to a high stim pre-workout, now that is something that for you high stimmers and you people with high tolerances, it's a great thing to do. You get a lot more alertness. Like the Naughty Boy Menace is really nice because you get many benefits from this. So if you're looking for more like a bodybuilding session or a strength session, you will get more out of this product. If you're looking for a high intensity CrossFit, maybe not for you because it has got pumping agents in there. So if you go through from the top of the panel, so we've got the citrulline, the glycosides and beta-alanine, which is all going to help for the pump to get more blood into the muscle and create a big pump, and you will feel a pump. Then you've got the straight up Menace on the back here, which is the caffeine. What's it? I can't pronounce that. Aphrodisiac, is it?
Which one?
Which is basically a powdered. It's a powdered caffeine that products use to get it into the product. Because obviously, if you put normal beans in it, it's going to taste like dog shit.
Yeah.
So,
but I think that's the key across all of these. It all comes from coffee. It all comes naturally from tea and coffee.
And
these
then,
aren't.
And then they mix up the stim to increase it more with juglans, whole fruit, and hordenine, which are they're stimulants. I think hordenine comes from barley, so it can raise that same stimulant as caffeine. So they put quite a big dose in it. So with something like this, we're looking, 350, 400 milligrams
caffeine.
And then if you're hardcore, double scoop, and then you're off into like 600, 700 milligrams. Then you've got the tunnel vision, which is the nootropic. So then you get that sort of...
The nootropic is, physically not stimulating, but it's a mental stimulant.
It's a mental stimulant.
It's a focusing agent.
But with something like this, you've got again, different to people's... I normally get the life of this. I can be running on 2 hours. So normally take it 30 minutes before my workout, reap the real benefit and the maximum potential point. My session's normally about an hour to 90 minutes. And then later on in the day, I have no crash at all with this. I actually get to the middle of the day and it feels like I haven't taken any pre-workout at all. So I highly recommend that product. There are many like these now, and there are some quality good ones I've used as well. I'm only picking one because this is one that I've got at the moment. The flavours taste good. And it's a great product, Naughty Boy Menace. Check it out. That's only for if you're doing high pumps, bodybuilding sessions. So I take that once to twice a week. I take that. and that's that, because I don't want to obviously do it too much, because then it becomes unbeneficial. If you use it every day, some people can.
Also, the key thing you touched on is timing as well. With that, we've probably seen a handful of times people take it like literally straight before a workout, and you got to give these. It takes the body time to metabolize and extract the caffeine and get it into the system, into the blood. That's why most of them will say on the back, like, have it 30 minutes before your workout. Whereas, you have it as you're working out, then you're going to get a big hit of caffeine. As I said, like, with one of the cons of it, of high usage, you can get kind of irregular heartbeats, and you can, like, and that's where you can get to that potential problem.
And anxiety, one of the big things coming out of it is if you do too much, your anxiety levels are going to rise up. So you're always going to feel shaky, anxious, and that's not a good place to sit. So if you use a product like this, use it wisely. Use it for that session. So I always use it for my bench press session, because I want the most out of my bench press, and I use it for one squat session a week. So I'm looking at once or twice a week with that. My normal caffeine intake will be, my other sessions will be a knockout.
Yeah, I think the great thing is, like, with this is something that's been researched massively. It's used pretty much globally, like caffeine in many different senses. And there are some cons to it, like with everything, but I believe the pros in the correct usage are massive. As I said, it's got implications into helping sports performance with strength and endurance. It's not an addictive substance. It's not something that holds addiction over you. It's just more, people will just become more habitual with it.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I think some people will feel addicted to it.
But it's that habit of just having it so
regularly.
regular.
And you'll notice as well, like, that's when you know it's bad, is that if you do go cold turkey for one day, you're going to have a headache. Because your body is looking for it. Because now your natural energy system is not there. So now it's looking for that substance you've been putting in. That's when you know you need a break and you need to chill out. Because you are running, like I say, off a substance, and your energy levels aren't balanced anymore. So that's when you know it's time to give it a go. Normally, every Sunday, I try, apart from recording this today, normally I do try and have one day in the week where I don't have any caffeine at all. But like I say, you monitor it. You monitor it. Once it starts getting too much, have a break. If not, then you can keep a healthy balance with it. Like I say, it is healthy and it is unhealthy, like with every other product out there.
It's just the usage of it. If you go to something like coffee as well, there's definitely a lot of effects that it can have in terms of how hydrated you feel. I know people for a long time were saying it's like a diuretic, basically.
Yeah.
You get dehydrated off it, which to an extent you can get a sensation of that. However, like, some of the new studies that have come out have shown that it's actually not. It doesn't have any different implications than drinking, say, like an orange juice. So it's still got a level of liquid or a level of water that will be extracted. And then also, like, digestion. A lot of people struggle with digesting coffee. It just goes straight through them. Mm-hmm. And this can be down to, like, what you've done before. If you have it on an empty stomach, it basically just clears you out. But if you have food that are kind of quite high protein and fat content, it doesn't it metabolizes differently, and basically it just won't go straight through you. So yeah, if you're like, I have a coffee and I'm straight on the toilet, then look at, like, what you're eating with it, or what you've had before in the day. But then if we're saying, like, it's the first thing you had in the morning, then yeah, it's going to affect you differently to then what if you had a breakfast, if you had a lunch before. So there's loads of implications. I think, like, yeah, you got to think about not just about what you're consuming in terms of caffeine content and when you're consuming it. It's what you're doing before and after. And then we go back to the kind of the overarching goal of, like, yeah, lifestyle should be in check. Training should be, like, really good. These are all, it's in the name. It's a supplement,
It's
right?
a supplement, so it will add value to a good routine and good basic lifestyle guideline. But if any of them are out of check, start to work on them. You know, it's just natural things to do in a day. Work on your sleep pattern. Work on your nutrition. That will give you a lot more for your money than just reaching out and spending money on products. Like I say, products are a luxury. They shouldn't be a must. You should have everything else in check first, then research it. You know, look into it. So like I say, for you guys who probably find you're doing too much caffeine, but you need that focus at work, just start looking into some nootropics. There's some great products out there that
Looking into some more sleep.
Well, definitely,
Maybe.
like, again, that's what I mean. So once that's all checked, but I'm looking at, rather than reaching for 10 cups of coffee a day, you could probably have a good product that is just a nootropic, so it's not a high stim product. I think supplement needs to do one called Focus, and it's just, you could have that, so mid-morning, and that will keep you going throughout the day, and you won't have any crashes, and you'll have that focus.
And as we've touched on, the difference between this and something like creatine, when we spoke about creatine, it's something that you don't need to cycle, you just keep it going throughout, whereas this is definitely something, if you get to an infrequent point, having a deload, having time off will be more beneficial
than you just reaching for more of it.
Massively. We know, like, if you haven't through lockdown not had a drink at all, year later you have maybe a beer or a couple of glasses of wine at dinner, hard. You're like all fuzzy and you don't know what's hit you. It's this level of tolerance, and as you said, to do with the adrenal gland and how kind of like almost worn out and burnt out that is in terms of managing cortisol.
And then you can look at studies as well. Once you start messing around with your cortisol levels, you can actually then, if you're looking to lose a bit of weight, you can start to hinder burning fat.
Yep.
There are case studies that say, well, you know, your cortisol levels are really important for that. So if you start messing around with that too much, that can slow things down on you burning fat. So.
Where you sit in the kind of rest and digest and fight or flight. When you're in the fight or flight, you're using it's a different nervous system, but you're basically focused on getting supplied to the muscles, being able to like run or fight. You're not thinking about digesting food. You're not thinking, like, your body switches that stuff off to an extent. So that's a big part of hindrance of cortisol, which this can play an effect of.
Yeah. That's it.
Coffee. Love
caffeine. I love it. Don't abuse it.
Yeah, it's like anything, right?
So, rabbited on a lot about that. I think that's enough for you guys to intake and without us repeating over the stuff. So, look at the products, look at the quality of the products, look at definitely the quality of your coffee as well. One thing we didn't touch on is obviously Nescafe is a pretty shitty form of coffee.
That's not coffee. It's not even coffee.
Instant coffee shit. Coffee pods can be better. They're still a bit instant. You know, once you become a coffee freak like Ben, then you'll get all the gadgets.
Connoisseur.
There's
like everything.
It does taste nice. It's
like everything. There's different quality has different impact on nutrient density, kind of the effect of the stimulants in it. So,
but just be careful with it.
And stop coming into classes buying knockos at 6 o'clock in the evening and downing them and
definitely
wondering why you can't sleep.
Yeah, exactly. So always make sure sleep is numero uno. It's more important than your pre-workout. So when you do, for those people who train later, look for the nootropic, because you can get
food.
I think we're touching back onto the nootropic. We'll probably do a series on this and we'll show you a few products. But the nootropic, there will be a little bit of caffeine in there, but it's very low, and you can go to sleep. You can even there are nootropics that help you go to sleep. So if there's a company called Strom Sports, they do a fantastic product. I've used it many times. It's one of my favourite products. It's called Neuro, and it's actually a nootropic that helps you go to sleep. Very good. They do two variations. They do one, and they do a PM version. The PM version is to wind you down. So if you are one of those people who do have a high intake, this can help balance your cortisol levels straight away. It's a drink. I should have touched it on a bit earlier. I will put a link up to show you what the Strong Neuro looks like, where you can get it from. But again, if you do find you've got a high stress day, your stress levels are through the roof, you've bounced it with coffee throughout the day, and you need something to sort of like wind you down, this drink is amazing. It's got stuff like lion's mane in it. It's got
magnesium, zinc.
I'll put the panel on there. I can't off the top of my head think of it now, but it's got loads of stuff in there to help you bring you back down and bring anxiety down and reset your cortisol levels. A drink that's great to do at night, which is great if you've come back from the gym and your body's still pumping around. Drink this drink, it'll help you wind down and get to a better sleep. But again, put all your sleep protocols first and try not to reach for such a big boost of caffeine with your training
Yeah,
session.
we'll definitely do some stuff on sleep supplementation because there's definitely loads of things out there. And you're doing your CBD tests currently, so
I'm doing
we'll
that
have
at the
a little
moment. I'm
look
doing
about
my 30-day trial at the moment, so that's going all right, shall I say? It's not too bad.
for now.
Still on the fence.
Still on the fence.
I'm not a week in yet.
But we'll, that's one to come in a month's time when you've had a bit of experience, a bit of exposure, and we'll talk about other sleep supplementation with that.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to leave that one there, guys.
Cheers.
Please push a like button and subscribe to stay
Tell
alert.
someone
Make sure you don't miss
about
any of these. Some of them you might go, I don't need to listen to that one. Some of you go, oh, this one's really interesting. We've got guests coming up on the next one.
Yep. And if you love coffee and need any recommendations, please reach out because I love talking about coffee. Basically, a coffee fucking snob.
Yeah, you want to know about where to get a good bean, talk to Ben. If you know where one you get good nootropic or pre-workout, talk to him.
Talk to him.
There we go. The natural and artificial. There we go. Okay, going to leave that one there. Thanks for listening, guys. Catch you on the next one.